Okay, so first I'm going to apologize that this video is up a little late because it has taken me a couple of days to figure out this video, and it's just been kind of crazy. So first I need to make sure that you are able to print copies of everything. If not, we are going to be graphing quite a bit, so you might want to email me and let me know if you need a copy of this unit so you can graph all the work. So let's go ahead and get started. We are going to start talking about key attributes of quadratic functions today. So first, let's go ahead and remember how we solve a quadratic function. So here I want to add 20 to both sides. So I'm going to have n squared minus 12n plus 20 equals 0. Okay, a quadratic function, we always set it equal to 0 when we are solving. Okay, so I need to do what I've done before for factoring. I need two numbers multiplied to give me a positive 20. Those same two numbers added together to give me a negative 12. So my two numbers would be negative 10 and negative 2. When I add them, I get negative 12. So here is n minus 10 and n minus 2. When I have two binomials, I set each one of those binomials equal to 0 and solve for n. So here I would get n equals 10 and 2. Okay, so we have done this at the beginning of this unit to lead up to this. What you have actually been doing is finding the x-intercepts. Okay, so let's go ahead and get into talking about some vocabulary. So a vertex is a point that is upper or lower bound. And typically we don't usually call them that. We call them the maximum or the minimum point. Okay, so when we would graph a quadratic function like this, we are going to get a parabola. So a parabola is in the shape of this, and the very top of my parabola would be my vertex. This is called the maximum. The lower part of my parabola is called the minimum. Okay. My axis of symmetry is a vertical line that crosses through it's supposed to be the x-axis. So this axis of symmetry actually cuts the parabola in half. Okay. The x-intercepts are where the line crosses the x-axis. So we set y equal to 0 and solve for x. The y-intercept is where the line crosses the y-axis, and we set x equal to 0 and solve for y. Okay. All right. So what we're actually doing today, we are actually just going to identify the different parts on our or from our parabola. Okay. So I'm trying to get all my pens ready because I'm going to do this in different colors, and you can go back and you can watch the video again and redo this. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do, I'm just going to go ahead and draw a line so that we can actually see where my x and my y axis really are. Okay. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to find is my vertex. Okay, so this parabola opens up, so that means I'm going to have a minimum value. So where is the point that is at the lowest point of this parabola? Well, it would be right here. And this point would be 0 or negative or 1, 2, 3, 0. I've got to get untongue-tied. So this is what we would call the minimum, because it is at the lowest point. okay? My next one is going to be my axis of symmetry. My axis of symmetry is a vertical line that cuts the parabola in half. So it would be right here. So what is the point that I go through? It would be x equals 3. Okay? Now, my roots are where this line crosses the x-axis, and where this line crosses is x equals 3. Okay? Now, on this one, you really can't tell unless you have the equation and you put it into your calculator. But if I had that, I would be able to see that this line is going to continue go up, and my y-intercept would be 9. Okay? But you wouldn't be able to see that without having this on your calculator. Okay? So let's look at step 4. Again, I'm going to go ahead and highlight my x and my y axis since they're not very good on here. Okay, so I want to find my vertex. So this opens down, so that means I'm going to have a maximum value. This is the highest point on the parabola, which is right here. So -1, 2, -3, down 1, so -3, -1. My axis of symmetry is the line that cuts the parabola in half. So it would be right here. And where is this line located at? -1, 2, and -3. So x equals -3. Okay. Are there any zeros on here? Does this parabola intersect at my x-axis? No, it does not. So I would just put there are none. Okay. And again, on this one, if you were to graph it and see the whole picture, my y-intercept would be at -10. Okay? Okay. Now, we've already had a parabola given to us, and we were just identifying. Well, look at step 5 and 6. On step 5 and 6, I do not have a parabola, but I do have an equation. So here I have y equals x squared minus 4. So off to the side of your paper, we're going to put steps for the calculator, which you should already know how to enter an equation on your calculator. First, you go to y equals, enter your equation, and then graph. Okay, so I am going to do that right now. I'm going to show you. I'm going to get out of this. Okay, so I'm going to go to y equals, and I'm going to enter x squared minus 4. So here's my x. Your square is down here, right there, and minus 4. And we're going to graph. Okay, so notice I have a parabola. Now, how am I going to get some points? There are two ways. You can look at the parabola and just get your points from looking at your calculator, or you can actually go to a table. And how do I do that? To go to a table, I just do second and graph. So second and graph is going to give me my table. Okay, so one thing that we're going to look at is I want to find my vertex. I want to find if it intersects the x-axis and if it intersects the y-axis, okay? So the first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to go ahead and plot some points. So I'm going to start right here where x is 0. So I have 0, -4. So I'm going to go ahead and plot that. 0 and down 4. Okay. So when x is 0 and y is another number, that's my y-intercept. So my y-intercept would be -4. So I'm just going to go ahead and put that. Y equals -4. That's this point right here. Okay. Okay. Now I want to see if there are any x-intercepts. So how do I find that? Well, when x is a number and y is 0, that's how I'm going to find my x-intercepts. So here I have -2, 0. So we're going to go here. And then I'm going to look down and I have 2, 0. So I'm going to plot 2, 0. Now, don't worry, because not all the time are you going to have easy numbers like this, where it just comes right out and tells you what your solutions or your x-intercepts are. So here, my solutions are where x equals -2 and 2. These are my x-intercepts where they cross the x-axis, okay? So if I'm going to go ahead and we could go ahead and add some more points, like they have 3, 5, so 3, 5, and they also have a -3, 5. These are just so you can go ahead and draw your parabola. So I'm just going to go ahead and trace this. Okay. Now I want to find my vertex. So my vertex is the lowest point right here, which is 0, -4. Okay, and this is a minimum value. Okay, now what would my axis of symmetry be? Well, my axis of symmetry is right here. It cuts the parabola in half, so my axis of symmetry is x equals 0. Okay. All right, let's try step 6. So I'm going to get out of here by second quit and go back to y equals and clear this out. And this is my equation right here. Okay. Okay, so let's go ahead and enter our equation. I have -x² plus 4x plus 1. I want to go ahead and graph it. Okay, so notice how my parabola opens down. So this means I'm going to have a maximum point. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and do the table on this one. So to do the table, we would do second and graph. Okay, so if I'm looking at this table, the only thing I see right now is when x is 0 and y is another number, I can see my y-intercept. So I'm going to go ahead and graph 0, 1. Okay. Now, other than that, you can put some points on here. Let's see. I'm going to just kind of look to see if they have opposite numbers or some that are pretty much the same. So here's a -1, -4, -1, 1, 2, 3, 4. And I have a 1, 4, 1, 4. Oh, no, that went that way. Okay. So see, it's really not going to work when I do this. So I'm just going to go back and look at my actual graph. Okay. Okay. So from your graph, you can tell a lot of things. We can find our maximum point. So looks like it goes over 2 and up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we're going to go over 2 and up 5. So what is this point right here? This is going to be my vertex. This is going to be my maximum point at 2, 5. Okay. Now, I can also tell what my axis of symmetry is going to be. And now, how would you do that? Whatever your vertex is, so go back and look at your vertex 2, 5. Notice on all of these, My vertex is 3, 0. My axis of symmetry is 3. My vertex is -3, 1. My axis of symmetry is -3. So whatever your x is in your vertex, that is going to be your axis of symmetry. So here, my axis of symmetry will be x equals 2. So right here is where my parabola is going to cut in half. Okay? All right. Now, and I even plotted this point wrong. It should be right here. That's just so bad of me. Okay, so I know this side is going to come down like this, okay? And I need to figure out where this side is going to come down. So I have a y-intercept that I can see. It is right here at 0, 1. So this is going to be my y-intercept where y equals 1. Now, what I need to look for are my x-intercepts, okay? So if this cuts it in half, that means this point is going to be here. We can go over to right here, and we can kind of draw this line, okay? Okay, so here I'm looking at my 2 points that are going to be my zeros. My zeros are also my x-intercepts. So it looks like x is going to equal, that's not quite in the middle, a -25 hundredths, and that is probably more in the middle, so a +4.5. Okay? So sometimes you're going to have to just calculate and look at your graph. Sometimes you're going to be able to look at your table to figure out what all of this is. Okay? All right. Let's go down here and look at a table. Okay. If I'm looking at this table, I want to find out what my vertex is, my axis of symmetry, my roots, and my y-intercept. Okay, so your vertex is always going to be your middle point. So on this table, what is my middle point? My vertex is -1, 4.5. Okay, so it's always my middle point. So what would my axis of symmetry be? Well, if I remember that my axis of symmetry is my x from my vertex, then I'm going to know that my axis of symmetry is x equals -1. So this is your axis of symmetry. Okay. Now, what are my roots? Your roots are your x-intercepts, where x is a number and y is 0. So where do I have x is a number and y is 0? Okay, so these are my roots. X equals -4 and 2. Now your y-intercept is the opposite. Your y-intercept is when x is a number, when x is 0 and y is a number. I said that wrong. So this is my y-intercept, where y equals 4. Okay? All right, so the next page is going to be just some vocabulary. It's going to be a visual page for you to always go back and look at. So the first thing I want you to be able to put on here is quadratic functions need to be written in standard form. And standard form is ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. Okay, this x squared is what tells me I'm going to get a parabola. Okay. All right, so the first thing is I want to talk about is our vertex. This is your vertex right here. Okay. We either have a minimum or a maximum. Okay. My x value is my axis of symmetry. My y value are my range values. Okay. This number right here, or this point, is my y-intercept. This is also known as my start value and where it crosses the y-axis. Okay. These points down here, these are my x-intercepts. This is where they cross the x-axis. Okay. These are also known as roots, zeros, x-intercepts, and solutions. Okay, so anytime you see any of these four words, we're always looking for my x-intercepts. Now, what if I am looking at a table? So know that your table is x and y. Okay, so when x is 0 and y is a number, this is my y-intercept. And you're going to only have one. When x is a number and y is 0, these are my x-intercepts. And notice that I wrote two of them because you are always going to have two x-intercepts. You either have two or none. Let's put it that way. Okay? So let me know if you need any copies for this unit because like I said, we will be doing a lot of graphing.